Hey guys, how's it going? And today we are watching Boondocksaint in his Gneisenau, the Tier 7 German battleship. Now, for the tier, this ship is an amazing brawler. It comes equipped with, I believe, 380mm guns, which are extremely punchy, though a little bit inaccurate. Very, very good secondaries that max out at, I believe, 7.6 kilometers, and 3 6-kilometer torpedoes per side of the ship. So it is a very, very strong brawling package, which also comes with a decent amount of anti-aircraft for the tier. Now, he has spotted a Fuso on the other side of the A-cap on this map, but sadly none of those shells will hit it. Now, the enemy carrier wisely has taken an interest in his Gneisenau, as the German battleships take a lot of torpedo damage due to not having a very good torpedo defense. And so he has chosen to drop his first set on Boondocksaint's Gneisenau. But this Gneisenau driver is not dumb. He has turned in and the carrier has dropped the torpedoes too close. So as he turned in, he made sure that none of the torpedoes armed, and despite all these cruisers now lighting him on fire, he has not taken the damage from those torpedoes, saving him probably 10,000 hit points. So, in my opinion, a very good trade for being stuck on this island and being fired upon by 2 battleships, a cruiser and a destroyer. He will have to do something about that destroyer fairly soon, but for now, that Cleveland that continuously is lighting him on fire is more of an issue. And since that Cleveland is, like most Clevelands, sailing broadside, these shouldn't be too hard of shots to place as long as they citadel. Sadly, those two will be overpens. The Cleveland's light armor sometimes will allow battleship shells to just pass right through it for very pathetic hits like that. Now you can hear Boondocksaint's secondaries opening up on that Farragut class destroyer as he has strayed within the German battleship's secondary range, which, if Boondocksaint has come equipped with manual secondary fire, that will absolutely rip into enemy destroyers, as it's fairly accurate for the tier. Those shells, are they going to take it out? Nope, they will not take out the Cleveland, doing one normal penetration but leaving the Cleveland at 1000 health. So if he does get an overpen on that Cleveland, he will kill it. That's all he needs, but first he does have to hit it. Wow. That other battleship left him at 100 health, so very lucky for Boondocksaint. So if any of these shells hit, that Cleveland should die, as I say, as one of the shells bounces off of it. But another shell followed it up and took out the Cleveland. Sadly, our Cleveland fell to the Farragut because straight lines are very, very strong in this game, I guess. And that Farragut's smart though. He's hiding behind the island just so that Boondock cannot get a good shot at him until probably his torpedoes are reloaded or he stealths back up. So very, very well played to him, as Boondock could torpedo him if he wanted to. Now Boondocksaint is starting to go forward again due to not really having any clue where that Farragut wants to go. He has to kind of maneuver out of here in case the Farragut has lead torpedoes this way, but he doesn't want to get around the side of that island and have a surprise Farragut pop around and drop all 8 torpedoes in his side. So he's turning out, he dropped torpedoes to ward off the Farragut, and he's now going to engage these 2 enemy battleships. One is a Tier 5 New York, the other being a Tier 6 Fuso. And he does not have much health, well, he does have a lot of health. He doesn't have much help over here. There's one other battleship, which I believe is a New York class, who is taking the brunt of the fire at the moment, but that won't last too long if he ends up getting hit really well. Now, he's against 3 ships basically right now. There's that Farragut class destroyer, which is behind him, and there are 2 battleships, one of which he just citadeled. I believe that was was it the New York or the Fuso? I believe it was the New York. But either way, it's less health that he has to deal with later on, as the Fuso trades him back. If you look behind the battleships, there's an icon saying there was a destroyer spotted behind them, and that would explain the high explosive shells arcing over the island behind those battleships. Surprisingly, the Farragut behind Boondocksaint is not going after the friendly carrier that is spotted at the back of the map and is being harassed by the enemy carrier, but obviously it was for good reason, as the enemy carrier has just sunk that. So now Boondocksaint has even less support, as he can't get any air support over here, and if he needed fighters, well, he's SOL for that. Drops another spread of torpedoes at the at the Farragut, but the Farragut ends up turning around and dodging all of them, so he goes ahead and drops the other set. Not sure if the Farragut's going to be smart and maneuver against that. I do believe those torpedoes were spotted by a plane or something, but now he's going to have to engage that Farragut with his main batteries, as he is getting very, very close, and it's almost too close for comfort. He could torpedo and maybe lead him past the Gneisenau and just have him catch up to them. His secondaries are engaging this Farragut, but they aren't doing too much. When they do hit, they do take off a decent amount of health, but they're not hitting very often, and it's nothing to rely on. As you can see, Boondocksaint has now loaded high explosive to try to get this destroyer off his tail. And sadly, thanks to German accuracy, none of those shells hit. As you can see, he's being forced into this corner, and he's being wedged in by this destroyer against the other destroyer and the two battleships. So this is not working out in Boondocksaint's favor, as he's going to end up having to brawl those two battleships while having to deal with two destroyers. And that was a very, very good hit on the Farragut, leaving him at 300 health. Will that one take him out? No. The main batteries miss again. The 300 health destroyer lives on to harass Boondocksaint even more. And that is a very, very painful aspect to deal with, especially since you're not sure if any of your batteries will hit it again. Boondocksaint takes the risk, loads the AP, and only fires one main battery, but those two high explosive shells missed by a mile, and now he's being charged down by an enemy Farragut from the front. But if you heard the sound effect, the torpedoes are reloaded, and he drops those into the side of this Farragut as he comes up on the border, tries to pop a smoke screen, and for some reason never torpedoed him. And at the same time, his secondaries take out the destroyer behind him, earning him a double strike. Now he does have armor piercing loaded, and that's a broadside fuso, so these should be easy shots into the side of that fuso, and they should deal a huge amount of damage. But you have to remember, he does have another set of torpedoes, and that fuso is extremely close. He's also not moving too fast, so he can't dodge these really easily. Torpedoes away, they look extremely good. Another 7,000 damage from the rear battery. Torpedoes hit, but they don't do enough damage to take him out, but that Citadel will definitely finish off that fuso, taking out the threat to Boondocksaint's side. Now, the Gneisenau's torpedoes do not have a super long reload. They're actually fairly short, and as you can see, in about 5 seconds, the torpedoes on his left side will be back up again, just in time for this New York to receive a very unwelcome present to the front of his ship in the form of 3 more torpedoes. And that's how you earn a Kraken alone, basically alone on a flank in a Gneisenau. And that was just amazing that those destroyers did not shoot any torpedoes at him. What were they doing being that close? I can understand the one in the front maybe had dumped them all into the New Mexico that was in front of Boondocksaint, but why was the one behind him not launching torpedoes to try to catch him in the aft? It just doesn't make sense to me. Either way, the enemy's stupidity is your profit, and it worked out quite well for Boondocksaint here. 124,000 damage so far, but his team is down on caps. Nobody ever took this A point, and the enemy team actually pushed around and kind of separated the team out between the A and D points. And sadly, all those shells missed the Miyoko. So he's still got to deal with him before he can either angle in to take A or push on to B. Now, a teammate's trying to get him to shoot the Nagato, but in order to keep the enemy team from getting a good lead on points, he has to actually reset or kill this Miyoko. And that will at least reset it, it won't kill it. And that Nagato's not offering a very promising angle to him. And there's the enemy carrier, surprisingly. Not entirely sure what he's doing there, especially since he just watched his whole team die on that side. But once again, the enemy team's stupidity, your profit. And yeah, there goes the carrier to a citadel. Another 3 cap resets, and Confederate award for taking out quite a bit of the enemy team. So now, let's see if this Miyoko would like to still play. Looks like he's being shelled from our spawn point by, I do believe it's 2 battleships. And he's broadside to us. Sadly, German accuracy. One of those shells skips across the deck as the enemy carrier's last-ditch efforts to sink the Gneisenau come to fruition as one torpedo hits Boondocksaint's bow, causes flooding, and forces him to use his damage control party. And yeah, looks like the friendly team from the base actually took him out as the Miyoko went broadside, I think to get more torpedoes off. So now the anti-aircraft of the Gneisenau is just farming these enemy aircraft, while the one battleship that is left, the Nagato, brawls it out with a Fuso. Now that Fuso should win that brawl. He does have more health, and both battleships, I believe, are broadside with the Nagato angling a bit more. Of course, Boondocksaint has enough range, and wow, the Fuso just took a huge hit. Boondocksaint has enough range to help that Fuso out and fire upon that Nagato, which 2 of those shells did hit, earning him a high caliber award. So he is absolutely racking up the awards in this battle for being solo on a flank. Now that Nagato is trying to angle up as he knows the Fuso is going to fire, Nagato does have quite a bit larger cannons than the Fuso and can citadel that quite easily. Of course, a citadel is not needed when a Fuso is that low, and it looks like he has taken him out. But his guns are also not facing this way, so Boondocksaint launches another salvo at him. And not bad, left him at 2,000 health, but it definitely could have been better. Boondocksaint's next shot definitely should finish him off and win this for the team. So now we just have to spot him without him getting a decent shot off on us. Guns are loaded in 3 seconds. There's the Nagato just as the guns load. He's already got some shells off, but it won't matter. Boondocksaint fires his last salvo and nails that Nagato right in the top. Right through the deck, I should say. So, very good job to Boondocksaint for holding that side of the map, absolutely destroying that team, and not panicking under pressure with that destroyer chasing him, and going broadside to try to take him out and eating a face full of torpedoes. He pushed through that enemy team despite both of the destroyers being there, and laid waste to them. And of course, if that New Mexico hadn't been there, it probably would have been debatable whether he would have been able to do that or not. Either way, the fact that he did it is still quite amazing, and 7 kills, I'd say that's a fairly decent game. As we get into the after battle reports, shows that Boondocksaint did 154,000 damage over the course of that battle with his Gneisenau, which is a very good result just by that standard, not counting the 7 kills that he got or the very long list of rewards that he got with Fireproof, Confederate, Close Quarters Expert, Dreadnought, Kraken, Devastating Strike, High Caliber, and Double Strike being added to the list of flags he will be receiving at the end of this battle. So, not counting the credits or experience that he earned in this battle, he has already been rewarded heavily just by the amount of flags that he has earned, and some of those are very hard flags to get. Going into the team lists of that shows Boondocksaint on top of his team with 2500 base experience, which is a very impressive result for being alone on a flank and taking a lot of fire damage right at the beginning of that battle. The Colorado that was recapping the spawn point actually came in second with 1500, but it's definitely nothing to contend to when the one in first place has over 1000 base experience higher than you. And of course, good job to the enemy Nagato, who came out on top with over 1000 base experience on loss. And finally, delving into the damage that he caused, out of the 154,000 damage that Boondocksaint did during that entire game, 85,000 of that was with the main batteries, 4,000 of that being high explosive against that Farragut, and 80,000 of that being armor piercing against the other various ships he encountered in this game. And looking down a little bit further shows where a lot more of his damage came in and where that uniqueness of the Gneisenau comes into play. 54,000 of that damage was from torpedoes, which any other battleship at tier 7 or almost any other battleship in the game, not counting Scharnhorst and Tirpitz, would not have that stat there and would not have that extra 54,000 damage there. Of course, it's debatable whether they could have done that with their main batteries, but that's where the uniqueness of the tier 7 German battleships and the Tirpitz come into play with their torpedoes for their very bursty, brawling playstyle. Looking down a little bit further shows 15,500 damage done with secondary batteries. Like I said, not the most accurate things in the world, but they do put their use in, especially when it comes down to taking out those destroyers at close range. So a very good result by Boondocksaint for holding his own, not panicking under pressure, and absolutely obliterating that side of the map. Very, very good job to him. I hope you guys enjoyed this. Good luck out there, and have a great day.